It's that time of the year! New consoles are coming out and there are no new announced Dragon Ball games on the horizon. So, speculation starts to run wild as to what exactly is the next Dragon Ball game. The strong candidate is the sequel to Xenoverse 2. Utilizing the power of the PS5 and the Series X, there's potential to make it better than ever. Xenoverse is a series that I really respect, and I think it's a series that every Dragon Ball fan out there should respect, regardless of whether they like Xenoverse or not. It's a game that revived Dragon Ball games after a long period of disappointing sales and low quality cash grabs. If it wasn't for Xenoverse's success, I don't know if we would have gotten other big budget projects like Dragon Ball FighterZ or even Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. That said, I am not the biggest fan of the game itself. I've completed the story in both games, played a bit beyond that to customize my character, but by the time I'm creating a brand new character, I usually feel pretty burned out. So this is what Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3 would need to do to grab a player such as me, and I believe many of you as well. Brought to you by Ridge. Ridge is a small wallet that I've been using for over a year now, and I've been carrying a lot less stuff thanks to the way it is designed. Leaving behind useless receipts or cards that I don't care about because this honestly carries everything that I need. Money on the back with a money clip and cards on the inside. No need for a big bulky wallet filling up my pants pocket. I travel lighter and I travel happier. I'll also most likely never need another wallet because the Ridge is for life. Built from military grade materials like titanium or carbon fiber, all Ridge wallets come with a lifetime guarantee. If you end up getting one of these and turns out you don't like it because it's not your thing, that's totally fine. Ridge will let you return it within 45 days. You get 45 days to take this boy out for a spin, after which you can return it for free, you get your money back, no questions asked. And if you do it right now, you can get a 10% discount by clicking the link down below and entering code Globku10 at checkout. Shipping is also free worldwide, so if you've ever been curious about getting a Ridge wallet, there really is no risk in trying it out. Thank you, Ridge, for sponsoring this video. First of all, what makes Xenoverse? Because if we get too wild with our requests, we're basically asking for a different game and not a sequel. To me, what defines Xenoverse is the following: a Dragon Ball RPG where you can create your own character and level them up, being able to customize their moveset with your favorite moves from the show, as well as their appearance over time. It's a game with a story mode where time patrollers go to different time periods to fix anomalies. And on top of that, it's got a decent multiplayer focus. I say decent focus and not heavy focus because you can pretty much do everything offline if you want to. But a lot of the content can also be done with friends, and of course you can also fight each other. Gameplay wise, it's a third-person game behind the back action game where fights take place in huge arenas. And while in these huge arenas you have complete freedom of movement, being able to run around or fly in each stage. This too is essential to Xenoverse. You can't just make it a 2D fighting game all of a sudden, or a first-person shooter. How would that even work? So what defines Xenoverse to me is RPG, character creation, time patrol story, online activities, and third-person action. So without changing the formula, how could they make this game more appealing? And yes, I mean more appealing because this game already sold a ton of copies. It is extremely popular. If they wanted to, they could just do some minimal improvements and essentially sell you the same game, which is probably what's gonna happen. And they would still be successful, but it wouldn't draw anyone new to the franchise, and that's what this video is all about making it bigger than ever. The new consoles will fix a lot of issues Xenoverse 2 had just automatically, simply because of the way they are designed. For instance, a huge problem for me were always the loading screens. It felt like Xenoverse 2 had loading screens on top of loading screens. You have to get through at least 3 loading screens to play a single parallel mission solo. And Xenoverse 2 already improved a lot over the first game. The first game you had loading screens in the actual lobby, just traveling from zone to zone. But with this new generation of consoles, this problem will most likely go away entirely. Other issues though are going to require some smarter solutions. For instance, what are they going to do with the story? In Xenoverse 1, we went through the events of Dragon Ball Z, fixing any inconsistencies, bringing everything back to normal by defeating the evil influence that was trying to change history. In Xenoverse 2, we went through the events of Dragon Ball Z, fixing any inconsistencies, bringing everything back to normal by defeating the evil influence that was trying to change history. The villains trying to change history might have been different, and there's no doubt they did a better job with the second game by giving those villains a sliver of personality. But they've done this twice now. 3 times would simply be too much. Here's what I would like to see in story mode. First, I'd like to see a much shorter story mode. I think the focus of Xenoverse should really be in the online modes. That's ultimately what keeps the game alive in the long term, so why not invest more in the online modes right out the gate? The story mode in Xenoverse is usually way too long, considering that the game itself is designed to be completed multiple times. Every time you create a new character, you get all the tutorial messages again. It's like you started the game for the very first time, and it naturally guides you towards completing the story one more time. This is annoying, to say the least. least. By making the story shorter and keeping in mind that players might want to repeat it when they create a new character, you're immediately making the process of making a new character less painful. As for the subject matter of the story, I think Dragon Ball Super gave us a lot of potentially interesting storylines. For instance, we take the Time Patrollers, we dive into Universe 11, following the adventures of the Pride Troopers trying to protect their own universe. We then take the Time Patrollers again and put them in Universe 6, trying to find out what Frost is plotting behind the scenes while appearing to be a charitable soul in the face of the universe. Maybe you'd work together with Kaba and Caulifla to put a stop to his plans. And this goes on and on. We have all of these new universes to explore, new stories to learn. We don't need to revisit Dragon Ball Z. But I doubt they would make a story mode without Goku, so maybe Goku will have to come with us on our adventures, even if it doesn't make sense. It is what it is, but yes, that would be a much welcome change to story mode. Now, I said this game should have a bigger focus on multiplayer because ultimately you're building a long-lasting Dragon Ball game, and multiplayer is what's gonna keep it afloat. That said, building a fun competitive fighting game with Xenoverse is extremely challenging. There is too much about the base game that's simply not built to be competitive, and that's fine. Not every game needs to be competitive, but when you have a versus mode and a ranked mode, you kinda have to at least try to make it competitive, otherwise all the broken stuff is all you're gonna see in your game. One of the main issues I have with Dragon Ball Xenoverse as a competitive game is that stats are king. You may want to take your created character into a match because you've worked so hard on that character. You want to see if you have a good build for multiplayer, but at the end of the day, you either have the stats to beat your opponents or you don't. It's incredibly hard to make multiplayer balanced when the game actually takes power levels into account. I think as a community, Dragon Ball fans have become more accepting of game balance. If you go back to the early days when Fighters was announced, a very common complaint was that Yamcha shouldn't be able to stand a chance against Goku because traditionally in Dragon Ball games, power levels actually meant better stats. That's how it always worked. So Fighters kind of broke the mold on that one. And I think because of Fighters' popularity and how good that game turned out to be, players are a lot more accepting of having a balanced roster, but that's just not the type of game that Xenoverse is. So instead of trying to make a balanced fighting game, I think the entire multiplayer should be reworked with a different focus. First of all, co-op missions. Easily one of the highlights of the multiplayer experience is getting together with friends and tackling parallel quests. Now, parallel quests are also a form of the game's progression. Sometimes you're hunting a specific piece of gear or a special move that drops on a specific parallel quest. If you can have that progression with friends, even better. But for this to remain a fun activity in the long run, there need to be guaranteed drops on certain conditions. As it stands right now, there's too much RNG when it comes to these rewards. Make it so if you get a Z rating at the end of a mission, you're guaranteed an item that you don't have yet. Or make it a guaranteed drop after X amount of clears. Furthermore, I think parallel quests could use some more variety. These quests get old very quickly. It's easy to identify the mission archetypes that they copied and pasted all over this game. You have your fighting missions, the gather the Dragon Balls, fight this giant enemy. There's just not enough variety in these activities overall. And none of it actually required cooperation since the quests themselves were designed to be beatable solo. I think Xenoverse would benefit greatly from taking a look at what Destiny has done over the years. Don't just give us co-op missions, give us full-on dungeons. Maybe make weekly dungeons with enhanced rewards and actual raids as end-game content. And I mean actual raids that have puzzles and unique boss fights and actually require cooperation, not those giant ape fights that they had over and over again. Those were fun to do like twice. Just imagine the potential of a Destiny structure in Xenoverse. You have your story progression, you hit your level cap, at which point it's all about getting the best possible gear for your character, finding new moves instead of weapons by playing the multiplayer dungeon so you can ultimately tackle the raid. I'm not saying it would be easy, but if you think about it, a lot of the work has already been done. They already have the ability to bring players together in multiplayer, fighting against multiple enemies. They have the experience with designing boss encounters. It's all about expanding from there and getting creative. Of course, this being Dragon Ball, there's no way the fanbase would be satisfied with multiplayer if there wasn't some form of PvP. So my first suggestion is get rid of ranked matches. That's the number one thing that encourages hackers, people running broken builds before they get patched, and the game just isn't built to be competitive. So just acknowledge that and remove ranked matches. Second, this whole creator room versus matchmaking is super outdated. Definitely needs an overhaul. Keep the rooms for private matches, but everything else, just put players in a matchmaking queue. Third, the netcode. The netcode has become a meme at this point, given how long players have asked for improvements, never to see it happen. And fourth, have some fun with the competitive game modes. Dragon Ball doesn't have to be just about the fighting, especially when your game isn't built to to be a competitive fighting game. Use the space, use the movement, make a race to find the Dragon Balls while a player rampages as a giant ape trying to kill you. Make a capture the flag mode, a battle royale, I don't know, there's a ton you could do with this engine that's not just 1v1. This isn't everything on my wish list, obviously. There are a ton of little things I'd like to see. Maybe I'd like to play as an android race or a demon race. I also feel like the Saiyans just have the best transformations because that's how it is in the show. That's a hard problem to circumvent, but every time I play another race, I feel like I'm missing out. But those are little things compared to the big overhaul we just talked about, and ultimately that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Don't forget about today's sponsor Ridge, link down below for 10% off with code Globku10. What would you like to see from Xenoverse 3? You've heard me rambling, now it's your turn in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku and I'll see you next time. Bye.